High above the pulsing lights of Hong Kong, where neon meets mountain mist, there's a road known only to those who dare walk it at night. Victoria Peak, renowned for its stunning skyline views by day, hides something else entirely after sundown. Locals speak in hushed tones about a woman dressed in white, seen wandering the winding path that leads to the summit. They say she appears just as the fog thickens, when the air turns strangely still and the silence becomes deafening. Some say she was a bride on her way to meet her lover, never arriving. Others whisper that she was the victim of a fatal accident on these very roads. But no matter the tale, they all agree on one thing: her eyes. Empty, endless, and waiting. If you see her ahead of you, don't look back, and for God's sake, don't speak her name. Tonight, someone new climbs the peak, and the mist is starting to move. Her name was Emily, a travel blogger chasing stories most would never dare to tell. She'd heard the legend of the White Lady whispered in cafes, markets, and taxi rides across Hong Kong. It was just folklore, she thought, a scary tale to entertain tourists. So, she did what no one else would: she went up the peak alone, after midnight. Her phone lit the road ahead, but it didn't stop the way the shadows moved unnaturally around her. The fog curled at her ankles like it had a mind of its own, thick, suffocating, cold. Then, she paused. The light from her phone flickered, once, twice, then died. Behind her, a shape emerged from the mist. Pale. Still. Watching. The silence stretched tight, like a scream waiting to happen. Emily turned slowly, her breath caught in her throat, and that's when she saw her. Not a woman, a wraith. A face with no life behind the eyes. And though they'd never met, the White Lady was staring at her, as if she'd been waiting. Emily froze, locked in place by fear so real it clenched her chest like a fist. The figure in white was closer now, no longer a blur in the fog, but an impossible presence, silent and cold. Her eyes, lifeless. No reflection, no soul. Emily dared not blink, barely breathed. The mist thickened, creeping around her like a shroud. The distant city sounds were gone, swallowed by something unnatural. Then, one by one, the streetlights behind her began to flicker. First dim, then brighter, then out. Darkness swallowed the road inch by inch as if something was coming for her, extinguishing every trace of safety. Her phone was dead, the sky was starless, and her scream was caught in her throat. She backed away slowly, but the White Lady didn't move. She only stared. Like she was remembering something, or someone. And then, without warning, she vanished, dissolving into the mist like smoke in the wind. The air was different now, thicker, like she was breathing underwater. Emily spun in place, heart pounding, her hands trembling at her sides. The White Lady had vanished, but something else had awakened. Whispers. At first faint, like wind slipping through cracks, but then they grew louder, more insistent. Dozens of voices, layered and broken, murmuring just beyond understanding. Were they speaking to her? Warning her? Calling her name? The road no longer felt like a path, it felt like a trap. The fog twisted unnaturally, forming shapes that vanished the moment she looked. And then, a glow, cold and blue, pulsed once, deep within the mist. It didn't flicker like a flashlight. It breathed. Emily took one step forward. One whisper became clearer than the rest: "She's still waiting." Her skin prickled. Whatever haunted this mountain wasn't just a story. It knew her. It had been watching her long before she arrived. Drawn by the flickering glow and voices that wouldn't stop calling, Emily left the paved road behind. The mist parted just enough to reveal a path, cracked stone steps descending into the unknown. No signs. No lights. Just overgrown vines and tree roots, like the forest was reclaiming something long buried. Every step she took was accompanied by the soft crunch of leaves, and the feeling that she was being watched. She paused, running her hand along a moss-covered tree trunk, where deep scratch marks clawed down its bark, unnatural, desperate. The temperature dropped. Her breath clouded in front of her again. Then she saw it, a small stone shrine, crumbling, forgotten, covered in incense ashes and rotting offerings. The glow she had followed was gone, swallowed by the dark. But the whispers, they were louder here. More focused. They weren't warning her anymore. They were welcoming her. This path had been walked before, and not everyone came back. Emily stared at the shrine, its stones weathered, its offerings long decayed. Red paper talismans flapped weakly in a wind she couldn't feel. Something had been sealed here, or perhaps worshipped. The silence thickened. Even the whispers stopped, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. And then, the fog moved. It twisted in tight spirals around her feet, lifting like smoke from a fire. Emily stepped back, but the ground behind her was no longer the path. It had vanished. Replaced by mist. And in the middle of that fog, she stood. The White Lady. Fully formed. Inches off the ground. Her hair floated as though underwater, and her hands hung limp at her sides. Her head tilted slowly, unnaturally, her gaze fixed directly on Emily. Those eyes, hollow yet burning. The shrine between them trembled, and a low hum filled the air. Not sound. Not voice. Something ancient. Emily's knees buckled. She wasn't supposed to be here. Not alone. Not uninvited. Emily could feel her pulse in her ears, pounding, frantic, wild. She crouched low beside the shrine, her fingers digging into cold earth for something real. But reality was leaving her. The forest was no longer just a place, it was alive. Watching. Waiting. And then, she felt it. A hand. Not warm. Not human. Ice cold, weightless, and gentle. It rested on her shoulder like a whisper. Every muscle in her body froze, but she didn't scream. Couldn't. She turned her head slowly, and there it was. The White Lady's face, inches from her own. Hollow eyes that saw straight through her soul. Her mouth opened, not to scream, but to speak, except no sound came out. Only a wave of sorrow. Deep, ancient grief. Behind her in the fog, faces began to emerge, faint, distorted, forgotten. As if others had been here before. As if Emily was joining them. The ghost's hand gripped tighter. And for the first time, Emily realized, this wasn't just a haunting. It was a claiming. In an instant, the fog vanished, not lifted, but shattered. Emily's surroundings transformed. The twisted forest faded into warm lantern light, the decayed shrine now pristine, adorned with fresh offerings and burning incense. Time had folded. She was no longer in the present. She was inside the memory. People passed her without seeing her, mourners dressed in white, their faces hollow with grief. At the center stood the White Lady, not a ghost, but a woman. Alive. Crying. Her hands clenched before a simple coffin, her wedding dress stained with tears. A man's portrait rested beside the casket. Emily felt the weight of a love lost, brutally, tragically. Then, a scream. A flash of motion. And suddenly, blood soaked the white cloth. The mourners scattered. The woman dropped to her knees, letting out a wail that pierced through time. Her eyes rolled back, her body collapsed, and the vision began to rot, burning away like paper in flame. Emily stumbled backward as the past dissolved, and the white lady returned. Not as memory. As something far, far more real. The illusion shattered with a soundless crack. Emily fell to her knees as the temperature dropped violently around her. The white lady hovered above the shrine now, no longer weeping. Her face had changed. Where sorrow once lived, only rage remained. Her veil snapped and twisted in a wind that didn't touch the trees, yet the forest bent as though paying respect, or begging mercy. The shrine trembled. Red talismans peeled from the stone and tore through the air like falling embers. Emily tried to run, but her legs refused to move. Something held her there. Not physically, spiritually. Like guilt anchoring a soul. The ghost let out a scream, hollow and infinite, and the sound echoed through the mountain like thunder without storm. This was no longer just about grief. It was vengeance. The white lady wasn't searching for peace, she was hunting justice. And Emily had trespassed into her sanctuary, her sorrow, her rage. The shrine was not a grave. It was a wound. And Emily was standing in it. Time stopped. The wind halted mid-sway, leaves frozen mid-air like trapped ash. Emily's breath caught in her throat as the white lady drifted down toward her, silent, steady, her veil floating like breath on cold glass. She didn't scream. She didn't speak. She simply placed one translucent hand directly over Emily's chest. The touch was not painful, but it wasn't kind. It was final. A cold fire bloomed beneath Emily's skin, spreading outward from her heart like frost. Her shirt glowed with a faint white symbol, unfamiliar, ancient, and pulsing. She gasped, but could not look away. Her body was no longer her own. Her thoughts were no longer alone. The forest held its breath, as if recognizing a change, accepting a new link in a long chain of sorrow. The white lady leaned in, whispering something not in words, but in emotion, a command, a purpose. Then, as swiftly as she came, she vanished. But the mark remained. And Emily knew, she wasn't just haunted now. She was chosen. Emily's breath was ragged, uneven, as she stumbled backward toward the shrine. Her hand instinctively touched her chest, where the white symbol burned beneath her skin. The mist swirled, rising like a tide around her, unnatural, otherworldly. The symbol pulsed again, brighter now, a beacon in the night. The forest began to shift. The trees twisted and groaned, their branches reaching like gnarled fingers toward the sky. The shadows stretched and danced around her feet, mocking her. Emily's eyes darted in panic. The world was warping, bending to the will of something ancient. The white lady had touched her. Chosen her. And now, she was no longer an outsider. She was part of the story, her story. The path that led her here had not been her own. She had been led. And now, it was time to pay the price. The whispers returned, louder this time, and behind them, a low rumble, like the earth itself was waking. The forest was alive in a way it had never been before. Alive with something dark. Something that would never let her leave. The white lady reappeared before Emily, her form flickering in and out of focus, like a broken image. Her hands, now extended toward Emily, were skeletal, translucent, but the power they radiated was undeniable. Her mouth opened in a silent scream, and Emily felt it, deep in her chest, an unearthly pressure as if the very air was pushing against her. The forest behind them darkened, thickening like a living thing, and the trees leaned inward, their branches curling like fingers reaching for the sky, blocking out any light. Emily's heart raced, her vision blurred with panic. The mist swirled tighter, closing her in, the glowing symbol on her chest burning brighter with each passing second. The White Lady had a message, a warning. She didn't want Emily's fear. She wanted her soul. The ghost's hands inched closer, and Emily realized, this was the moment of no return. There would be no escape, no second chances. She had crossed a line, and now, the spirit was claiming what was hers. The shrill silence of the forest was broken only by the howling wind, and the terrible scream that Emily was beginning to hear, deep in her mind. As the White Lady's ghost came closer, Emily froze in place, her eyes locked on the angry red eyes of the spirit. The wind howled through the trees as if protesting what was happening, but it didn't matter. The forest had already spoken its verdict. The mist thickened, a suffocating weight pressing in from all sides, blurring the world into a haze. But through it, Emily saw something else, her own reflection, not in a mirror, but in the mist. Her skin had become pale, almost translucent, and her eyes, empty, black, hollow, just like the White Lady's. The realization hit her like a physical blow. She wasn't just a witness. She was becoming part of the curse, her soul now intertwined with the ghost's torment. The curse of the White Lady was not just an ancient story, it was a living thing. And it had found her, chosen her. The ghost's hand reached out, no longer a warning, but a claim. She wasn't going to die here, but she would never be free. Not while this curse lived on in her, and it would live on through her. The air grew heavier with every breath Emily took. The cold burned her lungs. Her knees buckled, and she fell to the ground in the center of the shrine. The white symbol on her chest pulsed in rhythm with her heart, but it was not her own. She felt it, something inside of her, foreign yet familiar, weaving into her very being. The White Lady's figure loomed above her, her form beginning to dissolve into the mist, but not before one last, lingering glance. It was a look of both sorrow and something darker, an acceptance. Emily felt the ground beneath her shift, like she was sinking, but not into earth, into spirit. The air around her thickened, the shadows closing in, and for a moment, Emily saw her own reflection once more. But this time, her eyes were black, like the lady's. The transformation was not just in her soul, it was in her very essence. She had crossed the boundary between the living and the dead, and now, there was no returning. The curse was no longer a story. It was her life. Forever bound to the mountain, to the ghost, and to the endless night of the White Lady's grief. Emily stood at the peak, her body no longer her own. The mist swirled around her, embracing her like an old friend, an eternal companion. Beside her, the White Lady's presence was no longer just a haunting, it was a bond. They both gazed down at the village below, distant and unaware of the curse that had descended upon them. Emily felt the weight of the mountain, of the ancient grief and rage that had consumed the lady. It was now her weight too. The fog wrapped around her, the glowing white symbol on her chest pulsing softly, a reminder that she was no longer free. No longer a mere observer. She was part of the story. She was the new White Lady, the eternal watcher. The mountains, the mist, the village below, it was all hers now to guard, to haunt, to claim. The curse would never end. The cycle would continue, as long as the mountain stood, as long as the spirit of the White Lady lived on. Emily was no longer a lost traveler. She had become the lost soul, forever trapped in the fog, a silent sentinel of sorrow and rage, watching as others unknowingly walked into her fate. As the sun dips below the horizon, the ghostly figures of Emily and the White Lady remain at the peak, silent, eternal. The village below continues to live its peaceful life, unaware of the curse that watches over it. But the mist knows. The symbol on Emily's chest knows. And the spirit of the White Lady will never leave. Her sorrow, her vengeance, forever entwined with Emily's soul. There is no escape from the mountain. There is no end to the curse. The White Lady's eternal watch continues. Remember, some stories are not just told, they are lived. Thank you for joining us in this chilling tale. If you enjoyed The White Lady of the Peak, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Only True Horror for more spine-tingling, true horror stories. Be sure to check the description for sources and more details on this haunting legend.